Good evening, colleagues and other colleagues joining us from the US. It should still be during the day, so good day, and it might be good morning somewhere else in the world. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the last session of our conference that started in 3 days ago. The conference has been running for 3 days, but we had some activities that have been running a bit longer than that. And some of those activities that have been quite longer are the students' challenges. And we are meeting here now today because of these activities that started early as student competitions. And also we are going to meet here to recognize some of the good work that is being done on high performance computing. So we are going to honor our researchers in the good work that they are doing. So with me, I'm joined by the teams that will be doing all the work and telling us how all these competitions went. This panel of judges and the organizers of these competitions. So they are all here. I will be introducing them. So I'd like you to join me for this closing ceremony that really wants to reflect on how our conference went. And for that, before I start, I am going to have somebody who has been very instrumental in ensuring that we can have these meetings. And this is from our main funder, which is our Department of Science and Innovation. And I'm going to call on Dr. Daniel Adams, who's the Chief Director that's looking at the basic sciences and infrastructure. The infrastructure part of his work is the one that's making him to be here today. And I'm sure also the basic sciences of it, because it is the basic sciences that make sure that the infrastructure works. So collectively, all his portfolio makes him to be here tonight. Dr. Daniel Adams, the stage is yours to welcome the colleagues. Dr. Adams, you can join.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Dr. Sithole?
Yes, I can hear you, Dr. Adams. Welcome.
And you can see me as well. Can you see me?
Very well.
Good afternoon, good evening, morning for colleagues in other parts of the world, and to all our attendees at the awards and the closing session of the 15th Chpc National Conference here in the year 2021. Thank you, Dr. Sithole, for the words of welcome and an introduction. And it's always a pleasure for me to be part of this of the Mcgety Chpc conference. It's probably a standing patron of the conference, and apart from being the sponsor, the funder of that, I always enjoy to be part of this conference. Allow me, attendees and colleagues, to firstly acknowledge the presence of the invited guests from various countries, researchers from around the country, our industry partners, the judges, all students who took part in the competitions and the micro talks, as well as, the opportunity now of being virtual now. I assume that a number of parents are also now listening in and following the proceedings here this afternoon to probably clap for the kids when they get these good prizes. Secondly, I would like to acknowledge the main conference and awards sponsors. And the main conference sponsors are Intel for the diamond sponsor, NVIDIA, and HPE/Intel, which is a shared sponsorship, and Dell Technologies being our gold sponsors. LTR, our silver sponsor. Then we have sponsors for the Student Micro Talks prize sponsors, Gaussian and Q Finsoft. The Research Datathon sponsor, IBM. Our CHPC cluster competition sponsors, Dell Technologies, NVIDIA, and Eclipse Holdings. And some of these names, I mean, are actually household names in the environment of CHPC as well as these competitions. We want to say thank you to the sponsors, because the DSI is truly appreciative of our industry partners for their continued support of these competitions in terms of the training and preparing our students and providing prizes and incentives to the students. Without these partnerships and sponsorship, the competitions will definitely not have the same impact. The value add for the DSI, I mean, through the sponsorship, is that it is really an investment, not just in prices and incentives, but it's an investment in the future of our youth, and in particular, human capital and research capacity development within our country, and specifically the young and emerging researchers. The country remains being plagued by the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. And hence these challenges remain priority areas for the government, and we therefore value our partnerships through industry when they help us to address these challenges. Over the past 15 years, but in particular the last 5 years, which saw the establishment of the National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure System, or NICIS, not only distinguish itself as the national or tier 1 platform for infrastructure provision, but also significantly contribute to skills development, of which the student competitions remain the flagship events. All of us really looking forward to this time of the year. This demonstrates from the NICIS side an understanding that infrastructure cannot be an end in itself, but is an enabler of human capital and research capacity development. And it drives technology development and innovation. But furthermore, colleagues, it also provides the opportunity that through these competitions and the training and skills development programs, the students are really exposed to the latest and emerging technologies, which in turn enabled the students to get involved in technology developments as well as in innovation, which is critical for the well-being and the development of our country, and especially amongst the young and emerging researchers. But the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic brought to the fore the need to accelerate the introduction and institutionalization of 3 critical elements in the training and skills development curricula, including the research methodologies of our students, as it will soon be the new way of doing, and to fully exploit the new opportunities in the unprecedented times, if I could quote from the theme of this conference. What are these 3 elements that I would like to cite now as critical and really brought forward and emphasis on through the outbreak of the pandemic? These are really the translation of research results, open science and open innovation, and thirdly, ethics. And it's important that we inculcate and bring a strong consciousness to our students within these fields as emerging areas. Without going into much detail about these elements, but to plant the seed and bring awareness, it is to say that translation, and I want to really put a disclaimer here where possible, because we don't want to neglect curiosity-driven research, but translation of research results into outcomes of societal relevance and impact, including contributions, not just only be in terms of products and services development, but also to contributions to policy advice. This is calling for a paradigm, we know, shift from the classical knowledge outputs with emphasis mainly on scientific publications. The second element which we need to really emphasize and bring forth in our training is the adoption and practice of open science, open innovation, because the science in the 21st century is about co-creation. It's about open data. It's about data sharing and open innovation, which is about speed of realization of the IP versus what we used to be, or what is we've known to, or familiar with, is just the protection of our IP. It's about really the speed at which we can realize the IP. The rapid spread of and the global disruption of the coronavirus and the absence of a vaccine forced scientists and researchers across the world to pool resources, share data, and embark on open innovation efforts. It was really a race against time and realization that no one or no nation could do it alone. And I need to please note here that the DSI is leading currently a process at a very advanced stage for the development of a national open science policy that will provide policy intents to guide open data, open science, and open innovation in the country. The third and last element I would like to cite here is the element of ethics, which calls for a consciousness of and accountable behavior in the deployment and use of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, robotics, and even cloud. So what we say now, these emerging technologies are not innocent as much as they provide significant opportunities. These ethical issues include privacy, fairness, biases, discrimination, exclusion, transparency and inequality, and confidentiality, just to name but a few. But these are, for me, the critical ones. The primary or ethical issues stem from the concern of the responsible manner, as well as the actions in which researchers, scientists, algorithm developers, software developers, and even policymakers deal with the vast amounts of data currently collected, stored, and managed, and used for technology development, innovation, planning, and decision making. Two local examples that straggles across these three elements and highlight their relevance and critical nature in research, development, and innovation is the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory, or SARAO, of the National Research Foundation, who used their extensive experience in systems engineering and in radio astronomy, large, big science project, and in collaboration with the private sector to design, develop, and produce respiratory ventilators, and about, I think, 20,000 of them, to support the government's response to the combat of the COVID-19 pandemic. The second one is the South Africa's isolation of the Omicron variant, and which is an excellent example of open data, data sharing, transparency, and research for common good. And I know that you may add another list of examples which fit these three elements, which I reckon important, and we need to inculcate at the very early stage into the curriculum and into the minds of our students. As I said, this will be the new way of doing as we go into about our research and development and innovations that we will drive. I am of the opinion that despite the new challenges introduced by the COVID-19 pandemic, that this year's teams have been prepared to the same depth and the readiness as the previous groups to deliver excellent and winning results, to which we're looking forward to tonight. The awards function tonight, this to, again, to bring ourselves the orientation around what will be talking, or be presented tonight, is the Chpc student micro talks, prizes for masters and PhD students, awards for the research student datathon competition, the Sunrain Cybersecurity Challenge team winners, the Chpc cluster competition of the National winning teams. What's important for me and for DSI is that the scope of these competitions demonstrates the expansion of the NICI's competitions profile to include all the components of this platform in terms of Chpc, data, as well as the communications network. Although South Africa's team Chpc did not play, were not placed last year at the International Student Cluster competition, or this year in that competition, compared to former years now. It's important to note that despite the fact that the students were not placed in the competition, the students gained invaluable knowledge and experience in Chpc training as well as skills. And we know that they will carry that with them throughout their careers and will actually open new doors for them. But what was for me encouraging to know is that although the students were not awarded with the prize, they committed themselves to support future Chpc, the supercomputing cluster teams, or the South African teams that will take part in this competition in the form of mentoring, as well as providing advice to that. So the lessons they learned from this competition, they're ready to share with the teams that will come this year. That's very encouraging and a really good team spirit. This year, teams is therefore encouraged to work hard. And I hope they already work hard, and we'll show the results tonight. Therefore, they're encouraged to work harder now in the preparation and draw on all the successes of the past to claim again a position on the podium at next year's super international competition for the student cluster competitions. Lastly, I would like to say to the students this afternoon, we applaud you for the dedication, hard work during the preparation phase, and the enthusiasm that you display during the competitions. We're living in difficult times, blended learning. You have to be doing your studies, in virtual space, and with the pandemic around that. So it really calls for a different kind of way of work and dedication in times like this. And I know you've put the best forward. We want to say thanks to the NICI staff and the mentors during the preparations of the students for these competitions, as well as adjudicators entrusted with the daunting task of adjudicating the students' winners, and even those outside the winning circle to try harder next time and to consider themselves as winners in their own rights. So with that, I would like from the DSI side, welcome everybody to this wonderful occasion where we're going to celebrate the achievements of the students and just wish them well as they go forward. So with that, Program Director, I would like to say thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Adams. I think you hit the nail on the head here on the number of things that you inviting the students to take care of, and especially on the sort of requirements, for an example, on data-driven decision-making that we have seen the world having to depend on, and the whole issues of open innovation, which the colleagues now who are running these competitions will be sharing with us on those, and especially other things that everything that has got to do with all this data, there must be some ethics behind it. And you will hear about ethical hacking. I know it's a very difficult sentence. We have ethics and hacking in one sentence. The colleagues will explain more about this. But also, I really thank you for recognizing the fact that these preparations are much more even difficult nowadays, preparing under the lockdown. For an example, you have got teams that are sitting in geographically separated places and have to form a team as opposed to be sitting under one roof. So really the students coming in and pursuing to be to this stage, they have gone through all these challenges. So thank you very much, Dr. Adams. So colleagues, now I am going to invite the various committees which have been dealing with the competitions. Also, really thank you for recognizing the fact that these preparations are much more difficult. Dr. Mcgety, can you mute your mic, please? Because I can hear myself. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to invite the teams, but first I see that on the agenda they requested me to talk about the history of the competitions, the background, and all what I can say is that I don't want to repeat the words of Dr. Adams. I think Dr. Adams really covered this. We are trying to address one of the triple challenges in this country, which is the skills. And we also want to make sure that we can be able to have cyber infrastructure that is efficient.
Okay, can you hear me?
Dr. Mcgety, can you mute? I will call you on stage. Can you mute yourself? Thank you. So we will, in that, look at these competitions being able to close these gaps. So that is the main reason behind this. But the other thing is, besides building the skills, is to recognize the very important work that is being done using cyber infrastructure in the country. And hence the micro talks to the science and engineering that is being done on the cyber infrastructure and recognizing the work that is being done by
yes, can you hear me?
Dr. Mcgety, we will call you on stage when it's your time. Please, if you can mute yourself, I will let you know when it is your time. Able to close these gaps. So that is the main reason behind this. But the other thing is, besides building the skills, yes, thank you, the technical team. I think colleagues, until I ask you to come on stage, you have to wait. So with that, I think with that background, I'd like to call the first competition, which is the Student Micro Talks Awards. And for that, Dr. Daniel Mcgety from the Center for High Performance Computing under NICIS will be giving us the background on the awards and introduce the awards and the judges. Dr. Mcgety, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sithole. I think you can hear me very well.
I think until I ask you to come on stage. Yes, I can hear you and I can be able to see you, but we hear an echo from your side. There is an additional device that you have. Maybe you have to switch it off. Competition, which is the student.
I'm trying to share my my screen.
Daniel Mcgety from the Center for High Performance Computing under NICIS. Please proceed. Share your screen, Dr. Mcgety.
I'm trying to share, but I can't see the. Let me see. Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, I can see the presentation now.
I think you can hear me very well. Okay, let me just.
Yes, I can hear you and I can be able to see you, but we hear an echo from your side. There is an additional device that you have. Maybe you have to switch off.
Okay. I'm trying to share my screen.
Dr. Mcgety, can you please proceed?
Okay, Dr. Sithole. So thank you very much for this Yes, I've shared it. Can share, but I can't see the. Let me see. Okay? Can you see? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, I can see the presentation now.
Okay. I think we can hear me very well. Thank you very much. Let me just. Thank you very much for this opportunity. To essentially today to recognize the students, that presented micro talks. Of course, I think it's a moment that students have been waiting for. And then students worked very hard for this. And then,
please proceed.
Yes, okay. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I've shared it. Can you see the presentation? There's a background. I don't know. There's a background noise. Can you hear me?
Hello, Dr. Mcgety. I think now you need to close the web browser because you have logged in two ways. You have logged in a Zoom and also in a browser as a an attendee. So close your browser.
Okay, let me close it. Just okay. Now you can hear me.
Two voices.
Okay, let me proceed. Okay, I'm sorry for this. So let me share the screen so that everyone can see it. Okay. There's a background. I don't know. There's a background. No, can you hear me? Okay. So
you need to close the web browser because you have logged in two ways.
Okay, let me.
Yes, colleagues, Dr. Mcgety, can you sort out your technical issues? I'm going to move over to the awards of Dirisa. Dr. Mcgety will come back after.
Can you check if you can?
No, please, Dr. Mcgety, can you move out and sort out your technical issues? Because we have got other awards to come. So please sort out your technical issues, test with colleagues there. And I'm going to move over to the next awards. Can I call the colleagues from Dirisa to be ready? Dr. Anna Behat for the Dirisa Student Datathon Challenge, whilst Dr. Mcgety is still attending to the technical challenges on his side. And with that, colleagues, my apologies for those technical glitch. We will go into the second awards, and then we'll come back to the Student Micro Talks Award. Dr. Anna Vahat, who is the Director of the Data Intensive Research Initiative under NICIS, will be leading us in this award. Dr. Anna Vahat, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sithole. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clear, Dr. Vahat, and we can see your slides.
Thank you. So I will be presenting on behalf of Ms. Nobubele Shozi, and then further on during the presentation, I will hand over to Dr. Akawaya from IBM to actually do the awards. So this presentation on behalf of Ms. Shozi gives a little bit of background about the Dirisa Datathon Challenge. And what you see there on the screen are the key components, elements of the Datathon. It's a competition that is more than just asking students to show what they can do, but it's also showing the talent, the potential, and the kind of skills that we actually have in South Africa in terms of data intensive research. So that's the first purpose. The second one, focuses on open data. As you've heard from Dr. Adams and Dr. Sithole, the world is moving towards open science and open data. And these solutions that the students present are exclusively based on open data. So the key elements of the Datathon Challenge are listed there. The competitors are required to identify a relevant problem and to present this, to show how they plan to solve the problem, then to search and find relevant data sets, do their analysis, and then present a solution based on the problem that they have presented. Those are the important steps in the competition that all the teams will have gone through. So the theme for the DIRISA Datathon in 2021 this year is focused on an SDG to some extent, and it is based on what we call quality education. In other words, students would have to come up with solutions that would present ways in which quality education can be achieved. The teams participating in the Datathon Challenge, there were 9 of them from 9 universities as listed there: Wits University, Tshwane, Mpumalanga, Northwest, Central University of Technology, Mangosuthu University of Technology, Zululand University, and Vaal University of Technology. And each team from a university comprises 4 students and 1 mentor. So in total, 36 students and 9 more mentors would have participated in the competition this year. So the participating teams, I will show, briefly show the members of each team. Solplaatje University was led by Eva Mamabolo. I don't know, Eva, if you are there, you can perhaps just say hello or show if you're present. And the team, as you see there, consisted of 4 other students from Solplaatje University. The next team is the University of Zululand, calling themselves Inevitables. And they were mentored by Ms. Leoma Ezeji. And you see there on the screen the team members who participated. The University of Limpopo was that team was mentored by Mr. Vekani Baloy, and once more the team members are shown on the screen. Rose University called themselves Purple Code. They were led by Mr. Chindipa, mentored by Mr. Jinjipa, and once more you see the team members there on the screen. Tshwane University of Technology, the patent pros as they call themselves, were mentored by Viusile Mimani, and the team members are shown on the screen there. University of Johannesburg was mentored, their team was mentored by Professor Dustin van der Haar. And once more, the team members are displayed on the screen. University of Mpumalanga called themselves Orions, and they were mentored by Sinazo Machila. Sorry for my pronunciation. And the team members are shown again. The explorers from the University of KwaZulu-Natal were mentored by Ayanda Dlamini, and you see there the students that made up that particular team. The ethical tech innovators from Vaal University of Technology, mentored by Tolisa Piyoze, and those are the members of that particular team that is shown on the screen now. Then, following those, thanks go to the technical mentors. These are the individuals who assisted and supported all the teams from a technical perspective, and they would take care of any queries, any questions, and have discussions with the various teams about their particular solution that they were developing. So thanks to them. Then also, thanks and acknowledgement for the judges. Dr. Simo Mutetwa, Noluvuyo Kwadu, Mukuleseli Mtwani, and Kushata Chwaitsile. Sorry again for my lack of pronunciation. Our thanks go to the judges for their efforts and the work that they're doing this pro bono, as they say, and recognition and acknowledgement for their good work that they have done. The judging criteria is shown there on the screen. There are basically 5 criteria. Problem statement, how it is relevant to the particular theme, which in this case was education. How they used the data and how relevant the data was. That's the next criterion. The third one is a very important one, focusing on the innovation and creativity of the solution that they've developed or proposed. And then very importantly, the societal impact and the possible relevance of that solution to solve a societal problem in the real world. And then lastly, a focus on presentation and communication of their solution and of their findings. So those are the criteria by which the proposals were judged. And lastly, very importantly, thank you to all the DERISA staff for making this happen. I'm not going to single out people. For everyone who tirelessly worked to make this a successful and a really brilliant effort. Thanks to all of them as well. So now I'm going to hand over to Dr. Applewhite, who will give have a word about IBM, and then we will proceed with the actual handing over of the awards. So, Dr. Applewhite, what I can do is follow you on the presentation screen as you go along, if that is in order with you.
Hi, thank you so much. I've actually I received the slides, so I would like to I'll share my screen if it's okay.
Yeah, let me stop sharing and then you can take it from there.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can see that, Dr. Aglo.
Great, a single slide. Great, and you can see I've started exactly where Dr. Anwar leaves off from. So thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to represent IBM and to impress upon you the reasons why we're sponsoring this very important competition. And then you guys have just given me the honor of announcing the winners. So I've never done that before. It's a huge honor. Let me see if I can be as dramatic as the Oscars, maybe. Okay, so I thought in keeping with this invitation to have a few words, I thought I will just share some of my thoughts. So this is the Derisa Datathon competition award ceremony, and I want to tell you why IBM is sponsoring this Datathon competition. So these are some of the reasons. We believe strongly in developing the ecosystem of AI and quantum computing. In fact, that's our mandate as the research lab in South Africa, is to give back to the country and help develop the local human talent. That's our mission, and we do that by doing good research, taking on interns, collaborating with universities and the CSIR and the Chpc. So that's why one of the main reasons why we're here. I'd like to also use the opportunity to motivate cutting-edge research, to share with you some of the excitement that I myself feel, and hopefully inspire you to see how this research is both fascinating as well as far-reaching. The consequences are far-reaching. And then maybe also celebrate some of the research conducted right here in South Africa at the IBM Research Lab in
My
Brompton.
apology, Ishmael. My apology. Yes. Can you do full screen? Can you put on presentation mode?
Yes, I thought I did, but let me stop sharing and then reshare. Yes. So at first I shared the
yes.
At first I shared the actual application rather than the full screen. Thank you so much for pointing that out. I did want to ask that. Great. So I was on the third point. We want to celebrate the research conducted right here in South Africa at our lab and share with you some of our achievements in two fields very relevant to the theme of this datathon. So I want to make those connections, and we collaborate with researchers across the country. So it's a real celebration of local talent and contribution to cutting edge science. And so we can believe in ourselves. That's the key point here. We really have the talent. I'm so proud of the Chpc for having won. Besides this year, don't worry. I mean, as Dr. Sithole said, there are a lot of complicating factors this year, but we have such a wonderful track record of winning the ICS competition, and that's something we can take pride in and use that to motivate us and to keep going. And then I'd like to mention quickly, one of the reasons why we sponsor these Datathon competitions is then to use this opportunity to recruit prospective interns and researchers. And finally, probably most importantly, to try and make an impact in South Africa and Africa. Good. So those are the reasons why we sponsored this, and you guys are fulfilling that. The students are fulfilling many of those purposes. And now I was not asked to be a judge, and I'm so grateful for that, because it was a really tough job. Well done to the judges. And so hereby non-judgmental, I mean, it wasn't me that judged, but there's a little joke there, you know, the wife always says you're too judgmental. So this is a non-judgmental observation. And I just want to comment that the competition theme, as I mentioned this morning to the students, is an unsupervised problem. Everyone is looking for patterns, insights, and correlations. It was so wonderful to see that coming through. So well done, guys. This is actually the hardest part of AI. It's doing unsupervised learning, and one student called it EDA, exploratory data analysis. And you all saw how data science is a branch of statistical science plus domain knowledge. And you guys saw that coming through, because you had to understand, first of all, many of you were using statistical tools like correlation and so on. And then you also needed to understand the domain, the space of education, supply and demand, skills. So it's a beautiful example of how data science has to proceed. It's a collaborative effort. You need to combine your hard science, your mathematics with domain knowledge. And so even throughout our collaborations, we look for that. In quantum computing, for example, I bring the quantum programming knowledge and I collaborate, for example, with professors from WITS just down the road, because I'm here in Braamfontein. And that's the secret to success. And we saw that, you guys all saw that coming through. I also want to mention the statistical aspect, because it seems like, the neural networks and all the fancy stuff is removed from statistics. At least that's sometimes the impression people get. But it can be located in the field, and many of the tools of analyzing the success of AI are the tools of statistical science. And I claim we need more of that. We need more of that so that we can have interpretability, because we don't have that at the moment with many of the AI tools and deep learning tools. We don't have interpretability. We don't have robustness. We don't have generalizability. So rather, let's treat it as a science than black art. Like just black box tools. So I make that point. And then finally, I saw a few of you doing future prediction. You thought that was the goal of this project, was to predict the future in pass rate or enrollment and so on. It's not about that if it's an unsupervised problem, because you're looking for insights, you're looking for unknown correlations, surprises that are there in the data set. But you could use prediction and then look at which features of the prediction model are the highest, are the most important for good prediction, because then that will tell you something about what the dynamics of the data is, and there you could glean some insight. So that's a tip for future. And then again, I wasn't asked to do this, but I couldn't resist sharing this thought that I loved everyone's contributions. And it makes the point about the importance of collaboration. Even though there are only 3 winners, I want you all to know that you were all on the right track. You were all asking, and particularly I'm picking out this word correlation, because you'll see later on when I want to emphasize the research we're doing, how correlation fits in. But you were all asking very good questions and looking for correlations, and we're asking different questions. That was the sweetest thing that I noticed. I was so surprised. Even from the strongest team to the weakest team, if I'm allowed to use that word, all of you ask good questions. And sometimes the weakest team ask questions that the strongest teams didn't ask. So you can see how even strong teams could have, in theory, if it weren't a competition, if we were a company we're passionate South Africans. So as a collective, we can benefit from everyone having dialogue, and that's the power of democracy, I suppose. So anyway, so I just point out UJ discovered the correlation between race and local demographics and enrollment. Rhodes and UKZN both fascinatingly explored supply and demand. So which courses are people enrolling for, and what's the demand? And there's a mismatch. That's a big wake-up call there for the country. SBU and Unizol looked at the correlation between attitude and dropout rate. I really like that, and so there's some advanced AI was used, sentiment analysis, for example. Very nice to see that coming through. TUT had a whole correlation matrix of different factors and how they correlated. I found it very curious that there was a strong correlation between pass rate and year, which makes me sad, because it might mean we're fudging the pass rate. As the years progress, we're just passing people just because we want to make the numbers look good. That's a judgment on the country and on our policy. Unless, of course, on the bright side, we're doing things right, so that every year we're getting better. So it's unknown, but I spotted that in their presentation. And then I like UL looked at the supply and demand of educators. It's a very weird thing they found, that there is enough. There's enough supply, and yet there's huge unemployment amongst educators and teachers. So there's something going wrong there. I'm so glad they discovered that. And I loved how VUT used IBM tools. So well done there. Okay, let me carry on. And then I want to connect this to work happening right now at the South Africa lab, IBM Research South Africa. Like I said, this whole problem was an unsupervised learning problem, and things that you guys wouldn't have known this, but all the correlation tools you used were linear. They look for linear correlations, but sometimes effects are nonlinear. Many times in reality, effects are nonlinear. And so you need more advanced mathematical tools, such as topological data analysis, where you look for the shape of data. And I was so happy to see actually one team talked about the shape of data. They didn't expand on it, but here's a tool for you to talk about the shape of data in such a way that you can unravel nonlinear, not just straight line correlations, but nonlinear, even circular correlations. I won't go into that, but here's a nice picture for you. Nonlinear and high dimensional. So you all did paired correlations. You saw how is pass rate correlated with example, well, yeah, the funny one, right? How you only did pairs of correlations, and it's very hard to do, you know, the joint correlation between 3 or 4 or 5, and that's because of computational difficulties on classical computers and supercomputers. And I'm so happy to say that this algorithm, TDA, solves both problems. It gives you nonlinear correlation and high dimensional correlations. The catch is that classically it's very expensive. The promise is that this algorithm can be sped up on a quantum computer. It's called quantum topological data analysis, and it's exponentially faster than classical computing. And drum roll, please, here in South Africa at the IBM Research Lab, in collaboration with Wits professors and New York professors, we made a breakthrough in this algorithm. We were able to make it run on in quicker time on a quantum computer, for example. So that's, I'm just showing you how the very project that you were doing, analyzing data, can be done on a quantum computer for unsupervised learning, and we're pushing the boundary of algorithm design. All right, in general, quantum computing is something I want to invite everyone to. What can IBM do for you in the field of quantum computing? We have quantum internships at the lab. We have an online quantum textbook. We run quantum summer schools. The videos are available. We have free access to entry-level quantum computers and premium access to advanced quantum computers, which Wits has made available to the Arua universities. And I even think Dr. Sithole is looking to make available to all universities in South Africa. And then finally, here's a website for you. Okay, I hope I'm not running over time, but I made sure not to go into details. Finally, this is another field that we're working in, not quantum here. This is purely classical. And unsupervised learning needs neurosymbolic reasoning. This is missing. This is a big hole in deep learning. Deep learning is just about pattern matching. There's something missing. We need reasoning. We need thinking. In fact, all of you in your projects provided the reasoning. None of your tools did the reasoning where you said, oh, look at this. What does this mean? Let's, you know, race and demographics. It was all you guys that did the reasoning. But how do you take reasoning written down as, say, a logical framework? So, you know, if this, then that, takes reasoning in logic and combine it with neural networks. You need a brand new framework, and we're developing one called logical neural networks. It's a combination of neural networks and symbolic AI, and you can see how it operates differently. It does something like neurons, but it also does things that are not possible with neurons. What can IBM do for you in the space of AI and neurosymbolic? We offer AI internships, nothing to do with quantum, just pure AI internships, free access to AI tools, as we saw the one team did, and then the big announcement. I hope I'm honoring this conference by this is the first announcement in the world of our release of this open source toolkit of LNN. So please go check that out. And then, so that's my presentation finish. I hope I haven't gone too much over time. Here's information about the, of course, you're not meant to read all of this, but we have internships. There's these internships already open in December 2021 or opening soon, sometime this month. And then there's these in 2022. So please look out for that. I'll stop here. This was the tweet that I was talking about in the morning session. And the lesson is we need to beneficiate our own natural resources, not just export raw material. That's an insult to all the talent that we have in this country. We should do much more than just exporting raw materials. Thank you so much. Let me pass back to the chair. Oh, sorry, no, not yet, not yet. I'm supposed to read the winners. Sorry, let me do that. Let me. Apologies. Let me share the screen again. Okay, so it was part of the slides. Announcement of winners. May I proceed, Dr. Sithole?
The stage is yours.
Okay. Here we go. So I tried a few jokes, the wife and non-judgmental, but what do they do in the Oscars? Okay, I'll be myself. Forget the Oscars. Third team prize of 3,000 Rand per team member, and that's 4 team members, so 12,000 Rand for the team. And the winner is UJ, the code fellas from UJ. So well done. I don't know, Zoom, does Zoom have a clap facility?
Congratulations, EJ.
Yes, well done. So that's, you saw my comment on their nice contribution. So well done, UJ. Second prize, 5,000 Rand per team member. 4 team members, so 20,000 Rand for the whole team. The second team is Purple Code from Rhodes University.
Well done, Rhodes. Where to go?
And the winning team. Yeah, say again, Dr. Sithole.
To be in the Rhodes team.
Here we go. And the winning team with 8,000 Rand per team member. And you have to treat us all to a party now with so much of money. For 4 team members, 32,000 Rand. The winning team. Sol Plaatje University, Shoden, if I pronounce it correctly.
Oh, I'm moving to Kimberley.
Yay!
They're the team that did the attitude correlating to pass rate and dropout, and they use those advanced sentiment analysis tools. So really well done. Thank you to me and IBM Research. I think this is what the, so now I should probably hand over to to the chair, because this slide is to be read by someone else. But thank you so much. I hope I did a good job of my first time ever announcing prizes. Normally I would, aren't you supposed to shake hands? Can't do that. So let's do a fist pump or something. Winners to your screen. There you go. And I made the connection to IBM Research, and I invite you guys to all look at quantum computing, look at the internships, and in general, forget IBM even, just be excited about our potential as a country to make an impact in the field of AI and quantum computing. And collaboration is key. Collaboration is key. I've learned that myself. My own, as a South African, I was a lecturer at UJ. I was a research scientist at Chpc, and then I joined IBM Research South Africa. And I just love how I'm able to collaborate with Yorktown professors, researchers, and Zurich researchers, and South African professors. So collaboration is for me my secret to success. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you, Dr. Aglagwa and Dr. Behat. Thank you very much. I think the first thing that I would like to say from the awards, first of all, thank you very much, Ishmael, to your linkage to the CHPC as the first proteges when we started with high performance computing in the country. You being there, being one of the first research scientists being based in KZN. I think we really appreciate the great work. But I think with what Dr. Adams have indicated, data being pervasive everywhere, and the type of work that
just want to make sure that you have received it before I can start talking to our delegates.
looks like something has come in. No, not yet from you.
Did you receive it?
Yes, that's something that just came.
Okay, maybe while you are still trying to search the presentation, I can just give a highlight of the process that we have taken to come to the conclusion about the name of the NIGI's cloud computing. So, as communicated at the beginning of the conference, NIGI's have invited you colleagues to submit a name for the cloud computing systems. So afterwards, before they can invite you to actually submit those names, there was a process behind the doors where we were selecting the people who can evaluate all the submissions that were submitted by the delegate. So there is that committee, and we have met, and we have also come up with the name, selected the name for the for this prize or for this award. Thank you, Dr. Stone. Yes, you can move to the next slide. And then I'm going to start and show you and describe to you the NICI's cloud computing infrastructure, which was put into production on the 23rd of March 2020. And it has 1,432 cores and 1.2 petabytes of storage connected to each other via 100 gigabits of Ethernet network. On top of that, you also have a total memory of 12 terabytes. To apply for these resources, you can visit openstackusers.nicis.ac.za. I'll repeat this. The website is openstackusers.nicis.ac.za. We encourage people to apply for the resources and utilize this computational infrastructure. Can go to the next slide. Yes, I thought it would be great to share with you the history of naming our systems at the Cnpc. At the Cnpc, we had various supercomputing systems, starting with the E13, E50 IBM cluster, which we have never named it. But the second cluster, which was a Sun Microsystems, it was named. And historically, NICIs have named these clusters after the animals, and basically the fastest animals. In 2009, a Sun Microsystems was named Sithole, which is a Sotho name for Topi, the one you can see on the left-hand side. And in 2016, the current Dell Intel cluster was named Lengau, which is a cheetah, which is a Sotho name for cheetah. All these animals are sprinters, as you can see. So I believe that the committee that have constituted to name these clusters have actually based their reasons on this the speed of these animals, because we know that the cluster is meant for processing fast calculations within a short period of time. So these animals correlate very well with the naming of those clusters. You can go to the next slide, Dr. Stoller. Okay, so today there was a committee that was set up to evaluate the names of that were submitted by the delegates of the conference. And then we have to come up with a criteria on how we are going to eliminate the names until we get to one single name. And then this is the criteria that the committee have agreed on. We need a name that is going to be informative, that is going to be creative, a name that is going to be fascinating and easy for people to remember. Very important, because we cannot have a name that people cannot be able to remember when they refer to our system. So we want to have such a simple name like a Lengau or a Sithole, which people can be able to remember. But most importantly, this name should have the features of a cloud computing. A cloud computing in a sense that it can be able to share resources such as storage and processors and memory. So we wanted that kind of a name. And I'm happy to report that we have received 81 submissions from the delegates. Unfortunately, one submission was excluded or eliminated because the delegate have submitted this name after the cutoff time. The cutoff time was the third or the second, I think it was the second 2300. So we have eliminated that name. It did not form part of our review. Then secondly, we then reviewed all those 80 names that were submitted and then shortlisted 7. Out of 7, we have also sit down again and discussed these names. Very interesting names, I must say it. Very interesting names, because we had a situation where members of the committee, each and every member of the committee brought different names to the table. So we had to discuss and then also look at the reasons. Remember, when you submit your name, we said you must also provide a reason. So we have to look at the veracity of the submissions and also ensure that the name is clear enough. And also it is a name that correlates very well with the name or the characteristics of a cloud computing. So we then narrow down to 4 names. After 7, we then narrowed down to 4 names. And out of those 4 names, we then decided that it is time to vote for the best name. Based on the requirements that we have listed, the name should be informative, creative, fascinating, and easy to remember. 2, based on the reason that has been submitted by the delegate. And 3, we have to ensure that the name will be able to survive for a long time. People will not just know that use that name now, and then suddenly after a month, they forgot about it. So we wanted something very interesting. And we already have an experience. If I'm going to show you the list of the people who have who are part of the panel, they have an experience on the use of the Cnpc systems. So we knew that what kind of names should be actually shortlisted for being the best name. And then next slide, Dr. Stoller. And then this is the committee. These are the members of the committee who evaluated the names that were submitted by the delegates. The names are listed in alphabetical order. The first person is Mr. Claude Fortune from Data Intensive Research Initiative of South Africa, NIGIS. And then we've got Mr. Daniel Mokotlani from the Department of Science and Innovation. And then we've got Ms. Dora Tove from the Center for High Performance Computing. And then we've got Mr. Ngwemonama, also from the Center for High Performance Computing. Then lastly is myself. So it was 5 of us. And out of these 5 people, in fact, I think 4 or more, or all of us, we were system administrators, or we are the system administrators currently. So we manage the Cnpc systems. And we know from our experience, when the users or our customers come into our server room, when we tell them about the name Lengau, how they react. Everyone wants to know what is Lengau. How did you come up with this name? So we wanted something that will keep this momentum going. And then now I'm going to announce the winner of this name. But before I announce, let me say to you that if you recall, when you submit, there was an indication that you will receive or a bank. So I don't know if it is a Standard Bank or Net Bank, but I know that the winner is going to get a bank. Might be a bank or a power bank, but it will be a bank. Our conference manager, Ms. Nokolo, Mcgety told me that, no, you should give them a bank. It can be a Standard Bank will be able to send it. So this is a fascinating prize. And that prize is a power bank that will be sent to the winner of this competition. And the winner of this competition thought very well. I mean, I've read the name, and then when I look at the name and the reasons behind were well-founded. He have articulated very well the reasons why we should choose his or her name as the name for the Nigis cloud computing system. That is the reason why when we have put that time to, when we decided it is time to vote for those 4 names, all 5 members of the committee, they voted for one name, one out of that 4 names. So it is a very interesting name, and it also have some cultural, it also connect with some culture about our South African, it also connect with our South African culture and overall African culture. So it is something that I think you wouldn't expect, because most of the time, the first time at Cnpc, what we did is that we have named our system an animal. And the second time, we've named it again an animal. But this time, it is not an animal. We've named it something different and something interesting. And probably the newer generation wouldn't know that thing that that I'm going to talk about now, the name that we are going to talk about or announce it now. But the older generation that grew up in the late 50s, 60s, and 70s will know it because it resonates within our culture. So I hope that you will actually enjoy calling this name. And with that, I also want to thank everyone who have submitted their names. They were very interesting names, very, very interesting names. Others were not even cultural, but were just innovative. But we have to come up with one single name that will sustain the Cnpc for a long time. And that name is about to be announced now. Also together with the winner of that name. And not forgetting to mention also that we have to eliminate the people, some of the people who have submitted the names. Remember, when you submit the names, there was a terms and conditions. And in the terms and conditions, we've made it clear that no NICIS staff member can submit a name. If you are a NICIS staff member and have submitted a name, either from DIRISA or from Cnpc or from Sanren, your name was not considered because this was part of the competition. And therefore, I would like to announce the winner. But before also, I must also mention that we only specifically said NICIS. We did not include all other companies that work with NICIS. It was only NICIS. And then with that, I would like to announce the name and the winner. Next slide, please. The name is Sithole. Sithole is a spelling name, a place used to store grain, maize, and sorghum, usually from the farm. So that's why I said that normally most of the people, the newer generation will not know this, because this is a traditional kind of a water tank that was built at the back of the house and is used to store grains, maize, and sorghum after harvest. If you grow up in the early 70s, you will know this very well. So in Sepedi, we call it Sebua. So we decided to go with Sebua, and the winner is David Tswane from the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. With that, I would like to thank everyone for participating in this important exercise, because it means a lot to us. Every person who's going to be coming to see our clusters in the system, they are going to be asking about the Sebua. Where is Sebua? So with that, I would like to thank everyone who submitted their names, and then thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mabakane and the team. I can only just, with my age, I'm allowed to do that, to correct history. And I think it is my responsibility to make sure that we bring the right history, especially in the naming. So I see that the committee forgot the important part where we started, that the first Chpc system in South Africa was named in 2007, before the survey. So when we started talking about this, we were talking about agile and fast and agile animals. Hence, we looked at antelopes as the naming pattern. So the first name was correctly Ikudu, Kudu in other names.
Just slipped my mind, and I think
2007. That's the first system that you cut your teeth as a system administrator on. Ikudu, 2007. And we chose that because this system was based in the Western Cape, and it was based on the Xhosa name. So when we moved to the second system, we looked at another agile animal, bigger and more rigorous, because the teraflops were increasing. Hence, we went to Tsesebe. And when we moved from Tsesebe, and Tsesebe was also bringing in more the African presentation of this, because that's when we had like the blue gene for Africa. So the Chpc was no longer just South Africa, but encompassing the rest of Africa. And when we got to Lengao, the frame was smaller, but it was much faster. So that's when we thought it's no longer big and agility and fast. So we really wanted the fastest animal. And hence we went to Lengao. So that is that. And with that, we really want to congratulate the team. I wanted just to make sure that we have got the history correctly. And I would like to congratulate the team from doing all that work. We welcome in the new names and the stable of our arsenal in cyber infrastructure, Sebua. Sebua.
Sebua, yes.
I hope I pronounced it correctly.
You pronounced it correctly, Sebua.
Sebua. I think we need to keep on giving also the right name, because we don't want tomorrow we get like Seboa. Let it be Sebua.
Yeah, it's the
So let's get the old lady from Limpopo to give us the proper pronunciation that we can even put on our website so that people can know it. We are fascinated by how the name is being put. It is the cloud, it's something that you put, and it is there to harvest the rain, it's there to harvest the grains. So this is really fascinating. And I hope that we will write this name, promote the name. But what is more important is that it is the participatory nature of the National Integrated Cyber Infrastructure, because this infrastructure belongs to the nation. And what the nation says and likes, that's what we go with. The rigorous nature in which the judges went through the committee went through in doing the selection, we welcome that. Thank you very much, colleagues. I would like to move, thank you, Dr. Mabakane. I would like to move on our program. I think my program has just slipped off. It's here now. I'm back online. So I want to go to the next point, which is the vote of thanks. And for the vote of thanks, I will call none other, the person who has seen all the pains of making sure that this meeting happens and bringing all the troops together to make sure that we have got this, bringing the presenters, everybody today. And this is none other than our chair of the organizing team, Dr. Werner Janse van Rensburg. Werner, over to you to give vote of thanks.
Thank you, Happy. Thank you, participants, for just allowing me this time. Yes, we've reached the end now of the 3 days of the conference. And it was indeed, I think, an intense event for us as organizers. But all of this comes back to the value that is being given to the stakeholders and the participants. So please allow me this time to just thank everybody that made this possible. First off, on the stakeholder side, DSI, for their participation, representation at the meeting, because DSI is the funding entity of NICIs, and without the DSI, we would not be possible to operate. So many others also depend on the support. So Dr. Daniel Adams, thanks for your address tonight, and also in the opening session, Professor Jonas Sadeti. We really appreciate this. Then next up is the sponsors. We had good sponsorships this year. Once again, our diamond sponsorship, Intel, they come through basically every time. Thank you, Intel. Gold sponsors, NVIDIA. Then we had also a shared gold between HPE and Intel, and also Dell Technologies, our gold sponsors, and the silver sponsorship, Altair. And I also would like to thank the conference steering committee members for guiding us for the preparation of this conference. I can say the steering committee was appointed for this conference, but they remain appointed for the following conferences as well. So we are going to get some good momentum in working with our steering committee. And then all speakers that participated in the event, but especially the keynote speakers, the invited speakers, and of course, the vendor crossfire facilitators, all the SADC representatives for their participation yesterday. I want to thank all the chairs for the sessions. But lastly, most importantly, all the delegates that have participated in this conference. If it's not for the delegates, then all the work will be in vain. So I thank you for your participation by attending the sessions. And then just in terms of the organizing members of the conference, this is really a NICI's team effort. We are an organizing team involving all members of NICIs, or representing all entities in NICIs, the CHPC, Sunrain, and the RISA, and they assist with various sessions and planning aspects of the conference. But I would like to highlight one or two names. First off, Knox Moyake, the CHPC Communications Manager. Knox is very much involved in this conference. Thank you, Knox. Without your inputs, we will struggle. I don't always know what the things are that you do, but you obviously are doing it very well, because the conference is a success. I want to add to this Kevin Carver. I need to lift him out here as the main program coordinator and much more. He's doing lots of things behind the scenes. If you've not seen Kevin on any session, it is because he is so busy making sure that everything is happening as it should. So thank you, Kevin, once again for your dedicated effort. Together with that, also to Andrew Gill and Benjamin Bosch for your practical conference support and on many technical matters. So it is recognized and very much appreciated. And then we also have a broader conference organizing committee. I'm going to name a few names: Edward Rakate, Anwar Vahet, Dora Tobe, Renier van Heerden, Stibisu Mkwanazi, Polani Nkosi, Nobubele Shozi, Daniel Mcgety, AJ Markan, and many others. And I would like to thank you for your inputs in making sure that we have a successful conference. We've seen lots about the competition tonight. So there's various sponsors and people that makes this possible. Lots of organizing that goes into this. I just want to thank the Student Microtalk competition coordinator, Dr. Daniel Mcgety, and also Andrew Gill for your efforts there. For the Derisa Student Datathon, Nobubele Shozi and her team at Derisa, you worked very hard over these last few days. You could see the good work there. The Sunring Cybersecurity Competition, Renier van Heerden, well done with your team and how you pulled off this competition. And then lastly, on the student cluster competition side, Nyameko Lisa and his team from the ACE Lab and other CHPC colleagues. This is a very long process to do this competition, especially in the virtual world that we live in now. It may taking many weeks and dedicated effort that went into the online program. So very well done, and thanks for those efforts. And then I just would like to have a word of thanks also to our online conference platform hosts, Peter de Jager from AntFarm and all the support people from AntFarm and BroadSmart. BroadSmart were the people that prepared the conference hosting platform. Thank you very much. We worked almost day and night in the last 3 weeks with them, and they did a very good job. So with that, I'm gonna end. But the last person I would like to thank, of course, is the Nikki Center manager himself. Thank you, Happy. I think if it is not for your faith and belief in us able to do this job, and also, of course, your dedicated support in all the various efforts that goes into this, it will not be a success. So thank you very much, Happy. And with that, I'm going to hand back to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Werner. Thank you very much for the words. I would like to really, in closing, the colleagues to say, let me first make sure that I do the right thing and thank the kitchen staff rather than tip the waiter. So for this conference to happen, I would really like to get my organizing committee. And I know it's a long list, but there are really 3 people that I would like them to turn on their cameras and be on this. The first one is the general chair, who brings everybody together in the organizing committee, which is Werner Janse van Rensburg. Dr. van Rensburg, can you turn your camera on? And the second person that I would really like to get to be on this picture is Nokolo Miyake, who is...
Fortunately, she's not on the call, Happy. She's working behind the scenes.
She is on the call somewhere. She has to be. She has to be here. Can you switch on your camera, Knox? Because you guys, you are the legs of this conference. The third person that brings everybody together to get this conference to go is Dr. Kevin Carver. I think you heard me right. That's one thing that also, over and above his work of organizing this conference, Kevin also finished his PhD, Dr. Kevin Carver. Can you turn on your camera, Kevin? Colleagues?
They are not on the call, but I sent them the links to link onto the Zoom, but they are listening, so hopefully they will join. But I agree with you. If you want to acknowledge people, they should be on.
Yeah. So, colleagues, really, I would like to say thank you to this team. And the reason I would like to say this is that today, this conference is being organized. And I can say overall, in terms of the meeting that I attend about organizing this conference in the whole year, I can count less than 5. And the reason for that is because I've got a really dedicated team, and the colleagues that I have mentioned being leading those teams to make sure that this conference is a success. So thank you very much, Werner. Thank you, Knox.
I see Knox is there now, happy. She should.
Thank you, Werner. Thank you, Kevin. So thank you so much for making this to happen. And I know I have been putting really ridiculous demands, and you always channeling me directly. You know how much I wanted this conference to be a dual or a hybrid. And always you are the only people who can bring me to sanity and tell me, no, it's not gonna happen. And I don't know what the flow X-ray are you guys doing? Just before the conference started, the 4th wave was announced. So you guys really were seeing all these things up front, and you called it off. You said fully virtual. But I would really like to say, besides the excellent organizing of the conference, the quality of the presentations, the quality of the program, it's about the program committee. And you know, with that, hence, I really wanted to say thank you to Kevin for bringing together the program committee and organizing the conference so well and running it, making sure that all the talks, people can be able to have opportunity to see the talks. That was very important, that you made sure that you synchronize the times. And you know, in the selection of the talks, I really want to also thank our steering committee. Even though they came in when a lot of things were already happened, I think during that period, they added a lot of value in making sure that all the gaps which were there in the list of speakers, they brought in all the list of speakers. And you can see that the steering committee comes from various countries with the wealth of knowledge of this type of events. And in our first meeting, sharing with them about this meeting, the ideas that they have, I really want to see Chpc 2022 already happening next month, because the ideas that are coming from the steering committee are amazing. They are visionary people. You can just see with just the quality of just this conference, what they're coming up with. So I'm already looking forward to 2022, and I would like you to come along with me. Unfortunately, it's going to happen in December, but I would like to see it happening already in January. So colleagues, really, I would like to really thank these committees, because the organizing committee and the steering committee played a very important role. I think the next part that I would really like to do in closing It's
Thanks, Happy.
one of the very important committees, which is now the regional nature of this conference, that every year we have got the SADC cyber infrastructure framework. And colleagues, I would like to highlight that it has been very important that SADC cyber infrastructure started off being SADC high performance computing. But over the time with the ministers and realization that it's not just about high performance computing, we need to have networking, we need to have a plan for the data, that the ministers of SADC said we have SADC cyber infrastructure. And this year, under the chair of Malawi, and specifically steered by Professor Mcgety, we had a very great SADC cyber infrastructure interaction. It normally takes place over 3 days, but this year only over 1 day. The wealth of interactions and the reports and the progress that has been made under this banner or the forum, it's amazing. And really, what was really impressive is that looking forward in about having the SADC cyber infrastructure framework being 10 years, we will be announcing very soon the host of the 10-year celebration of SADC cyber infrastructure in 2022. When that is announced, we would like this community to join us, because in that meeting, we would like to be seeing all the progress that have been made. When we started off 15 years ago with this conference, it was only South Africa that can spell Chpc. And remember that. Only South Africa that can spell Chpc. But today, we have got high performance computing activities and tangible work being done in the continent. What is very interesting is that all the time we used to pride ourselves that we have got the largest high performance computing system in the continent, and the system that is on the top 500. I can proudly say today that it's not just South Africa. The largest system now in the continent is sitting in Morocco. And that largest system is on the top 500 supercomputers. And it is 3 times the capacity of Lengar, over 3 petaflops, sitting in Morocco. That's the wealth of these interactions that took place. So, colleagues, I think for me, I'm really proud to see high-performance computing growing in Africa, and it is because of your initiatives, your sharing ideas, showing the light this conference bringing to the African continent. Of course, Werner has already indicated about the sponsors. You have been with us all the time, been there, and this is what makes sure that we fuel that passion of growing high-performance computing and cyber infrastructure in the continent. And we'd like you to make sure that you invite also your competitors and your peers to make sure that they join us in this journey. As the steering committee has indicated, they are aiming for the jugular, and we want you to be part of that. Of course, the competitions really, the judges did a good job. And in overall, I think the fairness, you being there, it makes sure that everybody feels that they are welcome in these competitions. Please keep those ethos and the, making sure that the groundwork of this competition stays, because we want to see more and more people feeling welcome in these competitions. I'd like to talk about the next year conference. And with the next year conference is that it has been 2 years that we have been having this virtually. And having this conference virtually, we learned a lot. We learned a lot of other things. We managed to make sure that the conference take place. But we would like to have this conference to take place in person. The first international conference to take place on site was the Supercomputing Conference. International Supercomputing Conference did not take place this year, which happens around mid-year in Europe, in Germany specifically. Supercomputing that's happening in November did take place. South Africa, because of the visionary view of my team, they decided, no, it's not going to take place in person. It's going to be virtual. And thank them for that vision. But we really like to have 2022 to be an on-site event. And we have got a very unique venue that we want to bring you to that venue. And for this to happen, I think there are very important things. We understand the time that we live in, and we really want to have safety and to make sure that the world we can be able to travel. So for that, it's very crucial that we bring down the numbers in terms of the pandemic. And for that, we think that there are a number of things that are not therapeutic, not clinical, which are just a change of our behavior, simple things like washing our hands, making sure that we protect others from, if ever we are infected, we don't transmit to other people. So let's continue doing that. There are some clinical methods that we can use. The vaccinations, which are now available pervasively around the world. Can we be able to come to the party into those and make sure that we bring the numbers down? But I think critically for this community is that the solutions to this have been hindering around or depending on high performance computing. And I'd like to highlight one point that maybe colleagues did not take into consideration, is that when people thought about how long does it take to come up with vaccination, and periods like 18 months were highlighted. But finally, before 18 months, the vaccination solutions were there on the table. And I asked a lot of people. People said, maybe because we have got now inferior solutions that are available of vaccination. I said, when 18 months used to be the norm, technology was not advanced. And one thing the colleagues in here will understand me well is that when you want to look at what are the best pharmaceutical solutions, you have to go through a number of iterations. And those number of iterations, you have to look at what different formulations you have to look at. And for those formulations to be identified, the challenge always that sits with us is which one is more stable and which one is more better configuration. In the past, it used to be very difficult. I am a material scientist. I studied materials. And to look at those materials, it was difficult because I had to look at very different forms of those materials and have to do it by hand. For an example, moving around the atomic positions, I would do that manually and at random and without any pattern. And it will take me a long time before I find the optimal atomic positions to know whether these atomic positions will bring this material to its lowest energy. It's no longer the case today, colleagues. We have got better ways of doing that. We have got now better models where now artificial intelligence or machine learning was not recognized in our field, but is playing a very important role. And it can be able to do those configurations within a second. What it took me months, I can do them within a second. And that's one of the things that came in terms of algorithmic designs and also bringing in new players like your artificial intelligence and machine learning in the arsenal of tools that we can use. But more importantly, once we had all these things, when 18 months used to be a magic number, there were no computing facilities like that we have now. And immediately when the pandemic started, the computing centers that raised their hand and says, we have got computing power that we are going to dedicate to get the solution for COVID-19 vaccines or solutions. They were all over the world, including South Africa. And that is why, colleagues, now, we didn't have to wait for 18 months. We got the solution much quicker. And I would like to say in that it is upon us that we don't have to wait much longer to make sure that this world is much safer and we can be able to travel. So I am really confident that we can be able to get to meet in person before the December. And I would like to end this part specifically quoting our icon, Dr. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, when he said, "It is in your hands. The solution is in your hands." And I would like to say this: the solution is in your hands, the Chpc and cyber infrastructure community, that we make sure that the world is safer in December next year, that we can meet in person. With those words, I'd like to say, stay sane, stay being safe. And as you move out from here, make sure that you're going to work very hard so that we can make sure that 2022, the world is different and is much safer. Colleagues, thank you very much. And I wish you all the best for your vacations, and see you next year in one piece. Thank you very much. This meeting.